How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the fourth segment. Yeah, we've been working. This is our second podcast within 2 days. We're going to be splitting them up, but no, we've been working. We on top of it. We got to cover every event all the time. We on top of it. I'm Dennis Ragland. That's Frank Nares. This is Outside the Square Circle. We're going to start off with the fights on Friday night. Beginning with Sean Porter versus Eric Bonet. I'll lead off, but before I lead off, Frank, is there anything that you'd like to say?
Yeah, I'd actually like to say that UFC sucks, if I may. I was forced to watch a fight right before this podcast, and I'm not too happy about it, but we'll drop that subject, man. Go ahead and get into the Sean Porter fight.
All right, let's dig into it. First of all, I have to salute. I really do salute Eric Bonet. He came to fight. I heard he was flown away from another country, so I don't know if he was jet-lagged or not, but he definitely didn't come like he was sluggish or anything. He came in there trying to bring the fight to Sean Porter. For the first couple of rounds, it looked really good. He was a really tough guy. And I think if he would have moved a little bit more and would have avoided the body punching of Sean Porter, he could have made it a little bit more interesting. But he definitely wasn't a guy that came in to get a paycheck and lay down. But on the other end of that, I had to talk about Sean Porter. It was a great job. His offensive attack of the body, hitting him with the body, weighing him down. And from there, he was able to capitalize. The only thing, Sean, he's a little bit too hittable. I know he's working on that. He'll get better on it. But besides that, it was a great job from Sean Porter. You know what I mean? I see big things in his future, some big fights. Maybe we'll fight with Berto. Everybody wants that fight with Thurman, but me personally, I think when that fight with Thurman happens, a belt should be on the line because it's going to be a spectacular action fight. And a fight like that, I want to see them fight for something. You know what I mean? I don't want them to see them beat the heck out of each other just for the sake of doing so. But yeah, Sean looked really excellent. Like I said, I see bright things in his future. He used really good movement. Only at times it seemed like when he got anxious, he can get a little bit slack and wild. He has to contain that and not become just a headhunter. And he has to work his jab, use movement, set guys up for shots. If he can do that, he'll be a very hard guy to beat. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. First and foremost, Bonet was absolutely game. He fought his ass off, no doubt about it. Like you said, I mean, to be honest, I would have liked to see. I mean, Bonet did good off very short notice. I'd have loved to see what he could have done with a full training camp. I mean, it's clear that Sean Porter, it's clear that Sean Porter was the better fighter and is the better fighter. But just for sake of a better fight, I think that would have been awesome for him to get a full camp in. But a few things that I noticed with Porter, just like you noted, he still gets hit a bit too much. He leaves his left hand down a lot. And that was the punch that Cal Brook hit him with a lot, was that overhand right and counter right hands. Because Sean Porter likes to lunge in a little and come in wild, and he leaves that left hand down. He needs to work on that for sure. So like you said, he is a little bit too hittable. Hopefully he can work on that. But some positive notes that I saw was that he worked behind his jab a little more. He looked a little more contained. He didn't look as fidgety as he did in the past. Like you said, his body attack was absolutely brilliant. I mean, he just broke Bonet down. His body attack was what made it, and hopefully he can continue to do that and work on not getting hit. And like you said, he has a very bright future at 147.
Absolutely. You know what? Except I really want to know what happened with him. I heard Mayfield could have been stepping in for Roberto Garcia. First, I want to know what's going on with Roberto Garcia. I really want to know exactly what's his condition and how he's doing. And also, I want to know why Mayfield wasn't selected. I don't know if it was the network's choice or whatever, but I think that would have been an even more excited fight because Mayfield is a tough, gritty guy. He always comes to fight. So I wonder what happened with that one. But moving on to the Berto fight. Well, no, let's Chris Arreola. Let's talk about the Chris Arreola fight because that was one of the best heavyweight fights we've seen in a while. It was full of action, man. Arreola he looked a little bit out of shape to me. I gotta say that because like for the Stavern fight, he was like in top shape, but in this fight, I don't know if he laid a little bit off of the run or whatever. But he still came in there, fought hard, attacking. He was the areola that we love to see. You know what I'm saying? When he's able to bring it, and he's not injured with his elbow. And it was just a great fight. The guy that areola was fighting, Curtis Harper. He really surprised me because in the early on, I thought he was going to get out of there. The way he was getting hit with shots, I knew he wasn't going to make it past the third round. But surprisingly, he was able to shake it off. He was able to clear his head, and he came back and hit Arreola with some big shots of his own that turned the fight into favor a little bit. And he had to make Arreola dig deep to come back and compose himself to start fighting a smarter fight. But it was a back-and-forth, action-packed fight. So I kind of wonder what's next for Arreola because we seen him get he had a championship title fight against Vitali. He didn't win it. He had one against Stavern, didn't win it. I'm certainly not saying that to say that he doesn't deserve a third, but I'm just want to know if it's who would it be against? If it's against Wilder, would he have a better chance? You know, because I'm really not sure. But I know he's a tough, gritty guy that wants to earn his way back to the top because he said that after the Stavern fight. And I would certainly love watching and enjoying him. I just kind of wonder what's next for him. I heard when I agree with a good fight would be Chris Arreola versus Eddie Chambers. I would love to see that. That'd be an excellent heavyweight fight. So if that would be next, a guy like Curtis Harper, I would be interested to see him next. And again, because he fought so good against Arreola, he's a guy that doesn't seem to quit. He doesn't have any quit in him. So Curtis Harper versus Mike Perez, I think that'd be a spectacular matchup. A guy that's going to come in there, bring the fight against a guy that's a boxer and a mover, a slick. You know, those are the best. That's typically the best fights. The fighter versus the boxer. They always make because their styles clash, and it makes it for great action. So I think that will be next for both of those guys for the heavyweight division. Frank, what do you think?
I mean, at this point with Chris Arreola, he is what he is. And like you said, he did come in out of shape. He gets hit a lot, and that's what makes his fights entertaining, though. I mean, he'll take one to dish one. He'll take two to dish one. He has a great chin. He has great power. I thought it was a very entertaining fight. Like you said, one of the best heavyweight fights we've seen in a while. As for what's next for Chris Arreola, like you said, he very well could deserve another heavyweight title fight. I think the fight that makes most sense to get a belt would be the Wilder fight. I mean, Wilder just won it. Rather than having him jump right back in against Klitschko, you figure he can get a softer touch than that. Not saying that Chris Arreola is an easy fight by any means, but he isn't Vladimir Klitschko by any means either. So I think that fight makes a lot of sense. And I'm actually in total agreement with you that the Mike Perez versus Harper fight would be very, very good. I'm anxious to see Harper gain a new fan on Friday from me because he got caught with every single thing that Arreola threw at some moments of the fight, and he just refused to go down. After that first round, I thought he was done. That first right hand that Arreola caught him with, hurt him, put him down. I thought it was over, but he showed a lot of heart and a lot of composure, and he came right back in him. And that fight was awesome to watch. Event,
which was Berto versus Josito Lopez. Some people didn't agree with the stoppage in that fight, but you know what? I do agree because of the fact of that Berto, he was coming on strong, and it wasn't going to get any easier. It wasn't going to get any better for him because I didn't even, honestly, I felt as if Berto was hitting him with some good shots, but Berto hadn't landed anything really devastating, yet. So if he would have hit him with some more shots that would have been even more devastating and cleaner than that, I think it could have really been bad for Lopez. So as I dissect the fight, I had to look at the fact that Berto, things that I noticed, he looked a lot slimmer. And I think that helped him out because dropping some of that muscle, because everybody know Berto, he has stamina problems. So dropping some of that muscle, getting a little bit leaner, it makes him ability to lug a lot of weight. He's quicker. He seems faster. He was working that jab, and I think that does him a justice because that was always Berto's problem. Like he's able to get hit. One is he's able to get hit. He's hittable. Two, his fatigue. So now that he's able to cut down some of the weight, so even and it was just muscle, it wasn't like fat. Even though he was able to get a little bit slimmer, he's able to get faster, and he's able to have better stamina because of it. So now all he had to do is work on getting hit. Because I can't lie, Lopez he did hit him with some great shots. Like I was like, wow, you know, he brought the fight to him. But it was good to see that none of the shots that Lopez hit him, it didn't have Berto in any serious trouble, but he did get hit. But once Berto returned the favor, we can see the Lopez, he was actually feeling the effects of Berto's shots. And I love Lopez. He has a lot of heart. He's going to bring it against anybody he fights, no matter what weight class. You know, he's a great guy. I love the way to see him fight again. And for Berto, what would be next for him? I think the sky's the limit. I think he's starting to put himself back up there in the upper echelon of the 147 division. And he can start fighting some of those big names. You know, like he said at the end, he doesn't really call anybody out. But one name I did hear him say, he did happen to mention the Kell Brook. It seems like Kell Brook is wearing an arrow on his back with the IBF title. So, and I don't blame him. That'll be a good matchup too. But like I said, maybe Berto, Porter. I mean, if Berto can get a Kell Brook fight, I would love that too. Or I'm definitely interested in seeing Berto versus Victor Ortiz too. Wow, that would be great. Or even Berto versus Brandon Rios. That's something I was thinking about. I was like, that'd be a good fight. You know what I mean? Two guys. And Berto, he's adopting the Virgil Hunter style of actually being smart and being strategical in boxing. But I can bet you if he was to fight Brandon Rios, that most of it would go out the window, and we'll just see two guys scrapping. So that'll make for an excellent match. Lopez, you know what? I would like to see Lopez fight a guy. I would like to see him fight Earl Spence Jr. because I think it's time for Earl Spence, just to throw his name in there, it's time for him to start fighting some bigger names and putting the world on notice to know, hey, I'm here. I can contend. I can fight anybody, and I can hold my own with the big names. So I would like to see maybe Lopez, because that'd be a good test for Earl Spence Jr. And for Lopez, that'd be a chance to prove his point that, hey, he's just not a walkover guy. He's not a guy that you can put him against to make somebody a name. So if he's able to stop a young contender like Earl Spence, then I think Lopez, he puts his name right back up there and with the big names again. And if Earl Spence wins, then, hey, it's time for him to get a shot with the big names and show what he can do.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. In terms of the fight itself and the stoppage, I did think it was a bit premature. But like I'll say, and I'll always stick to that, is that it's better for a fight to get stopped early than too late. This is a sport where we've seen people die in the ring.
Absolutely.
This is a sport where we've seen people, I mean, you saw it just on Friday during the fight when you saw Thomas Hearns get up there and he's slurring his words and he's at a loss for words and he just looks a bit uncomfortable.
Man, you brought that up.
I did, and I think it's a valid point. And just being a boxing fan, it sucks to see your idols like that when they retire. So I always will say that it's better to stop a fight early rather than late, because this is a dangerous sport and every punch could be someone's last punch, whether it's their career or their life. So in terms of that, I thought I was okay with the stoppage, but in terms of just the fight itself, not looking at that, I did think it was stopped a little too early. Lopez has fought back in numerous fights from being hurt, from being knocked down, so I would have gave him a little bit more of a chance, but the stoppage was definitely explainable and definitely understandable. But in terms of the fight, I mean, it was great. It was great action. Lopez brought it to him. Berto stayed composed, and like you said, he looked a bit leaner. He looked fast. He worked behind his jab. He worked a little smarter than usual. He didn't get caught into Lopez's game of trying to brawl. I think, like you said, Berto still has a pretty bright future in the sport. I'd like to see him take another step-up fight. And I think for him, the fight that makes the most sense, in my opinion, is a Sean Porter fight. They're both still on their way to a comeback. Porter did what he had to do against Bonet. Berto did what he had to do against Lopez. So it'll be kind of like a crossroads fight with them two fighting, and then they can see where they stand in the rankings from that point on. I think that's a very good fight to be made. In terms of Josecito Lopez, I would actually, like you said, I didn't even think of the Errol Spence fight. That's a great fight. But to the point, to carry your point with that, is that that's the point, or that's the point of the career that Josecito Lopez is at, is that he's not going to get many more big fights. He's going to have to go down, fight more prospects, fight younger guys coming up to prove his worth again. So an Errol Spence fight would be very good. I would actually want to see him move down to 140 and maybe get a fight with Mikey Garcia, who's moving up to 140, to see where Mikey Garcia stands. Because like you said, Josecito Lopez is coming to fight no matter who it is. He'll go in there against the heavyweight and give it his all. He doesn't care. He has so much heart. I'd love to see him in there against anyone, man. So whatever's next for him, I hope it's on TV again so I can get to watch him, because he's a very entertaining dude.
All right, so we're going to move it right along, keep it rolling, and we got to talk about the robbery. That's right, people. I said the robbery. I firmly believe that Steve U.S. Cunningham won that fight against Glasgow. And let me start. I have to say, Glasgow did come on strong in the end. He did throw the harder punches, but that does not mean that he won the fight. I cannot say because he threw the harder punches and because he seemed to come on stronger at the end that he won that fight. In my opinion, he was outworked and outskilled during that fight. And the onslaught that he came with in the ending, I don't think it was enough to win the fight, let alone even draw it. So I don't understand where they got that score from. They saying that he only won because Steve Cunningham only won 4 rounds. That is beyond insane. I have to say it's an injustice to Cunningham how he lost because he's one of the good guys out there. A hard fighter. He earns his due. And I hate to see something like that happen to him. But it just goes to show that, I hate to say this, corruption in the sport of boxing it's alive and kicking, I wish it wasn't like that because we all love the sport of boxing. It's a great sport. The sweet science is nothing better. But unfortunately, it's goods and bads and everything. And the bad part is sometimes if you leave the fight in the hands of the judges, you can come out with the sharp end of the stick even if you don't deserve to. Glasgow is a good, solid fighter, but he started off so slow, and I just can't see how they could give him the fight. I really hope that this doesn't hurt Steve Cunningham in terms of being able to get a big fight next because he won in my book, and he would deserve a good fight next with a big name, and because I don't think that he should be penalized for the judges making not such a good decision. But from what my understanding, this is not the first time that Glasgow has got a controversial decision. I don't know if this guy's been put on a pedestal for some major fight with somebody or something like that, but in my opinion, I just can't see that he won that fight. I mean, what do you think?
I agree with you. I mean, I thought you hit the nail on the head with it. He got outworked. He started off very slow. He came on at the end. And like you said, he threw the harder punches and he landed some hard punches, but it's not enough. This is the sport of boxing. One punch to someone's 10 doesn't get you a win just because that one was harder than a few of those 10. It just doesn't. He didn't throw enough. It was one of those things where he got outworked, like you said, and outskilled. I didn't think the fight was very close. I gave him the last couple rounds, but I thought it was a wide decision win for Cunningham. And like you said, corruption's just still here in boxing, which is unfortunate. If I had to change one thing about our beautiful sport, it would be the corruption and the judges giving fights to fighters that don't deserve it. But unfortunately, it's still here, alive and kicking, and we just got to deal with it sometimes, man.
This fight reminded me of the Herrera fight,
against
the
Garcia.
guy that was clearly outworking the guy. Yeah, he was clearly outworking him, showing more skill, and because the guy was a bigger name and was landing the harder, more visible punches, they said, "Hey, let's go ahead and go with him." I felt like that was the same case in this, and I I don't necessarily like because a guy's more favorable for name or whatever reason that he gets a decision that he did
So
not.
moving on to the Sergey Kovalev versus Jean Pascal fight. Going into the fight, me and Dennis have both said, and I think it's pretty obvious to everyone in the boxing world, that this was going to be the toughest fight of Kovalev's career. And that's no disrespect to Bernard Hopkins, but he was 300 years old when he fought Kovalev. So we knew that. I mean, and just the scrappy style that Pascal has, and the heart that he has, and the awkwardness that he has, and just his resume in itself. I mean, let's face it, he's fought the better competition to this point of their careers, even though most think that Kovalev is the better fighter. So that's the preface to the fight. The fight was absolutely amazing. That was a great fight. Non-stop, action-packed. I didn't think Kovalev would be able to knock him out, to be honest with you, and that's saying a lot, and it's not because for his lack of power. This dude has scary power, nullifying power. If you go back to that third round, that was with Jean Pascal was having great success counter-punching him, and it had to have been about a minute or so left in that third round, and Kovalev just landed a huge right hand and just completely nullified everything Pascal did in that round. His power is scary. He can be losing a round and still come back and win a round, or make it debatable with the judges off one or two punches because he punches that hard. Outside of that, I thought Pascal was he was countering Kovalev's jab beautifully. His counter rights were landing at certain points in the fight at will. It was great what he was doing, and what we saw was that Kovalev can be hurt, because with those counter right hands and a few even wider left hooks by Pascal, he hurt Kovalev. And Kovalev has a great chin, and he has a hell of a poker face too, because some of those punches would have taken a lot of dudes at 175 out of there, or at least made them visibly hurt. And on to the stoppage of this fight. Just like I said with the Berto and Josecito Lopez fight, it's always better to stop a fight a bit early than way too late. And with that said, I do think the fight could have been let go a little longer. The ref could have let the fight go on a little longer, especially because we saw that Pascal had the heart and had the determination to come back from being badly hurt after he got hurt. I believe it was at the end of was it the second round or third? I forget which round it was, that he was basically out on his feet, and he showed that he can. Fourth round. Okay, it was the fourth round when he showed that he can come back from the devastating power of Kovalev. So personally, I would have let the fight go on just a little more. But like I said before, I would not. I don't fault the ref at all. He was a bit out on his feet, and another punch, like I said before, can end a life or a career. So I thought the stoppage was a decent stoppage. And as for what's next, I mean, let's be real here, Dennis. What other fight do we want for Kovalev outside of Stevenson? There's really not a fight out there. I don't, unless Andre Ward is moving up to 175, which I don't see that happening this year. There's no other fight that interests me for Kovalev other than the Stevenson fight. And as for Pascal, I think there's plenty of fights. I actually wouldn't mind a Bute rematch because of how well Bute came on towards the end of that fight, and how Bute was just saying it just didn't feel like him in that fight. So I'd like to see adjustments made by both fighters for maybe a rematch. What do you think?
Well, first I got to say, way to take every point I was going to say. But, well, yeah, so I guess I'm going to have to, piggyback off some of the things you said. And starting with, I'll start with the controversy. I do not agree. And you can see I'm not one of the guys that always don't agree with early stoppages, because I agree that when Lopez fight got stopped, it was a smart stop. But this time, because of the fact, like you said, in the fourth round, we seen he can get wobbled, he can get hurt, and he can do things to not only hold his own and continue to fight, but he was able to recover. And this time when he was hurt, yeah, he was visibly hurt. He was wobbled. He was dazed. You can clearly see it. But my thinking is this. A fight should only be stopped if a guy's defenseless. He can no longer defend himself, and now he just becoming in danger of getting hurt worse because he can't stop any punishment that's going to come to him. Or if it's a case where a guy's continuously getting hurt and it's unnecessary to continue to watch the guy take punishment because he has too much heart for his own good and he won't quit. So you have to help him out and get him out of that. I don't think at that particular time when it happened, either one of those was the case. It was him being hurt, him being wobbled, and him balling up, receiving the punches, and getting ready to fight back, just as he did when he got hit, and Kovalev had a little slippage. I thought it was a knockdown at first, but as I seen it was a slippage. We seen he got hurt again in the corner, and he threw punches back. Every time Pascal got hurt, he retaliated. It was never a time where Pascal got hurt and he was just to the point where he couldn't defend himself, or he just looked, or he looked like, hey man, you got to help this guy out because this can be damage for later on in the future. It didn't seem like that. We just know that, like you said, Kovalev have amazing power. He has bone-chilling power. So when he hits you, you're gonna feel it. It's gonna hurt. And if he hits you cleanly, like Pascal got hit, even an iron chin guy like Pascal, if he hits you clearly, you're gonna be wobbled. That's for sure. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. This is the sport of boxing. You're gonna be hurt, and we're gonna see people get wobbled. But the heart of champions is how you bounce back from that. And if you're not able to bounce back from that, then you get a guy out of there and you say, hey, stop it. There's no need to let this guy continue to take punishment. But in a major fight like this, and we seen not only Pascal, but we seen Kovalev get hurt and he come back from it too. So I think you owe it to those guys to let them continue to fight and go out on their shield. Because I say this, and I'm not saying it to say that Kovalev wouldn't have won anyway, because I believe that if Kovalev would have continued landing those, Pascal would have went down and either not got back up, or then you can say, hey, I'm not going to let this guy keep going down several times. But you have to let it get to that point. We can't predict the future. You can't say, oh, well, he was hurt. I think this, I think that. No, you can't think, because we never know what's going to happen in boxing. Like you said, that's why we watch the fights. So you got to give the guy the opportunity to continue to fight and see if he can redeem himself before you stop it. And so, in my opinion, I think it was a little bit of an early stoppage. You let the guy see what he can do. I mean, it wasn't as if Pascal was not hurting Cove, and it's a case where you can say, well, at this particular point, there's nothing he can do to win this fight. He hasn't hurt Cove all night. That's not the case, because he hurt Cove a few times. So we do see Pascal can hurt him back, and he had the power at any time to nullify the fight by hitting him with a counter punch back and maybe stopping Cove, or if not, wobbling him and hurting him. So it's just too many scenarios. You see how many scenarios I could play? There's too many of them for us to speculate with, for us to stop it and not know the ending of it. But I have to say that during the fight, Kovalev has amazing power. This guy's for real. He's for real.
Yeah.
He can box. He can trade. This guy is for real. He's not a joke. And I really don't see, even though I'm a Adonis Stevens fan, I don't see Adonis Stevenson beating him. The only person I think could be, if Ward, and like you said, I don't see that happen, if Ward transforms into a 175-pounder, and Ward speed and power is able to translate to that division, I see Ward can win that just because of skill and Ward's uncanny ability to be able to bounce back and take control of a fight. Other than that, I think Kovalev owns that division. But like you said, we need that fight. I was asked what fight should be next for Kovalev. I said, if we're not getting a Pascal rematch, it has to be the Adonis Stevenson fight. And they said, well, we see Adonis Stevenson is at Showtime and Pascal is at Kovalev is at HBO. And I said, listen, if the biggest names in the sport, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, can bridge the gap and find a way, there's no reason that the entities of Adonis Steven and Kovalev can't sit down and reach an agreement to make that fight happen, because it needs to. I mean, if we don't get a rematch, what else are they doing besides having busy fights?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Just like you said, if Floyd versus Pacquiao can be made, and I was the biggest non-believer in that fight ever going to be. You know that firsthand. I think that fight can get made in a million years. So if that fight can get made with those two networks, first of all, that opens the door for other fighters from the opposite networks to come in and fight each other now. It's obvious that they can work together, that they're willing to work together. I mean, and this is probably the second biggest fight that the sport can have, or second or third. I mean, you can make arguments for maybe like a Gennady Golovkin versus Cotto, a Miguel Cotto versus Canelo. But this is one of the top 5 fights in the world of boxing that can be made, and that's not up for debate. So they need to figure out a way to make that fight happen, because it needs to go down. You can't have two dudes that think they're the king in a weight division. It does not work like that. This isn't, this isn't some sport where you can do that. We don't have the AL West, the NL Central. We don't have different, we have these one weight division that you're the king of, and that's that. Those two need to get it on and go. And we'll see where it goes from there, because that fight, it's the biggest fight that can happen at 175, and it needs to happen to determine who's the best there, man.
And another thing I need to bring up, which leads me to this point. I don't know if it's confirmed yet, but I'm hearing that GGG, good boy, is fighting Willie Monroe Jr. Now, wait. Come on now. I heard Laura begging for the fight. I know Laura's at 154, but if he's willing to go up to 160, he is a bigger name fighter than Willie Monroe. He is a slicker boxer that can stay away from punches. He's not a huge puncher, but he does have tremendous skill and ability to outbox anybody. So I think that he should have been the first consideration. And furthermore, Cotto hasn't even announced who he's fighting yet. I mean, at least try to negotiate that fight, or see who Cotto picks first, just before you take. And I mean, no disrespect to Willie Monroe. That's nothing more than a stay busy fight, in my opinion. That's, hey, I don't want to sit around and wait and see what can happen, who's gonna negotiate, who's gonna do what. So I'm just gonna grab a guy who's ever out there. And I believe one of Willie Monroe's last biggest fights is Brian Vera. I mean, Brian Vera is a name fighter, but he's not an actual threat elite fighter that you can say, I beat him and stamp your name on it, because we've seen Brian Vera go down to quite a few guys lately. So I don't see why he would even choose Willie Monroe Jr. I mean, maybe he knows something I don't know, but I don't. To me, that's a stay busy fight, and that's easy money for GGG. I mean, if he gets him out of there in 3 rounds, I wouldn't be surprised. But what do you think about that fight?
Well, I mean, you already know I'm a Gennady Golovkin fan. But I can't say anything more than I'm not a fan of the fight, to be honest with you. Like you said, I would have waited at the very least to see what Cotto was going to do before announcing anything, unless they did try to negotiate. Hopefully something comes out where they say, we did try to negotiate with Cotto, it wasn't available at the time. If that comes out, okay. But if not, it's like, come on, like, why aren't you at least trying to make the fight happen, or trying to negotiate? They obviously want the fight. But, I mean, like you said, it's really just a stay busy fight. I'm not a fan of it. For some reason, Gennady Golovkin is dead set on fighting 4 times this year. He said it before the year started. He said it after his first fight, so this will be his second fight of the year. Hopefully it's good while it lasts. I mean, I don't know what else I can really say about the fight. Like you said, Monroe's best fight to date has been against Brian Vera, so it's clear he's not equipped to fight against someone of Gennady Golovkin's stature. Yeah, it's a stay busy fight. I can't really stick up for it. I really don't know what to say other than hopefully Gennady wins, saying that as his fan.
Would you seen Laura than Monroe?
Absolutely, I'd rather have saw Lara. With that said, maybe they're trying to set up a Lara fight. Maybe Lara does move up to 160 now, and then they fight later on. Maybe they're trying to spice it up. Now, this is just me thinking about scenarios in which this is not just a stay busy fight. I could be completely wrong here. But I'm just, just trying to think of some scenario where this fight has some type of credibility. And that's no disrespect to Willie Monroe, because he'd kick my ass. He's a pro boxer. I'm not saying this out of any type of disrespect, just pure name-wise. And I know he's ranked in the top 20 in in the overall middleweight standings, and in a few of the I think the WBA and WBO. I get all the alphabets mixed up, but I know he's in the top 10 in a few of those, so he does have a decent name in terms of those rankings. But I mean, it's just not the fight we want for Gennady. It's time for him to start fighting the big boys, and it's not his fault. I mean, he obviously wants those fights. I don't know if it's management is telling him he needs to stay busy, but fighting 2 times a year, there's nothing wrong with that. You fight in the beginning to the middle of the year, and then towards the end of the year against 2 decently big names. So I don't see what the problem is, but like I said, hopefully it's fun while it lasts. Hopefully Willie Monroe puts up a decent effort and a valiant effort to try and beat Gennady, but I can't see it going very long. I can't see it going past probably 5.
I agree. And the thing is, I was thinking, I mean, even if GGG got 3 fights in, it doesn't have to necessarily be 4. I mean, I wouldn't have minded if he would have waited to after Hassan and Dom and Jickham.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm saying his name wrong, please forgive me. And till he fight David Lemieux. That's going to be a really good fight. If he could have waited to after that fight had transpired and then fought the winner, because I think I'm going with David Lemieux, but I think David Lemieux, a guy that can punch like a mule, kicks against we know what GGG can do. Against GGG, I think that is a heck of a fight. So I say, why not wait till that fight happens, and then you can take the winner of that. There's no need to rush against a guy like Willie Monroe. You have nothing to prove against him, and I don't think you get any credit after he beats him, which everybody knows he will.
All right, everybody. So once again, this is Outside the Squared Circle. I hope you guys enjoyed our podcast. We've been working hard to try and improve on things and trying to articulate ourselves a little better and things of that nature. So remember to subscribe to us, man. It's really important to us that you subscribe and follow us for the future. We have a lot of big plans going with the podcast. I'm going to once again link you guys to our Facebook link, Modern Boxing USA. I'll put that in the description, so if you guys can give us a like, that'd be awesome. And the other thing that I actually don't mention is you guys can feel free to add us on Facebook. Those are our names on Facebook right above our heads. So if you ever want to just go ahead and message us about boxing or about whatever, we're definitely open to things like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I hope you guys continue to follow us in the future. And if you have any comments about what we said, any suggestions, any feedback, anything, go ahead and throw that in the comments, man. Let us know how you think we did. Let us know if you think our opinions are good or bad. Just don't troll us, man. Be honest with us. Be serious with us. We want to have serious boxing discussions with the people out there. So I'm going to go ahead and give Dennis the mic, and he'll go ahead and finish off this podcast for us.
I want to say thank you guys for tuning in again. We do this for you. This is what we do it for. We students of the sport. We love it. We love everything about it. We've actually and growing up, we've actually done amateur boxing ourselves. So we really love everything about it from inside to outside, and we just love giving our opinions on what we see and what we think. And we hope you can appreciate our opinions. And we'd love to hear what you think, too, because, hey, by no means do we know everything and we get it all right. This is why we do this, because we want to see what you think, and it opens up the dialogue for discussion, and we can talk about this. So, hey, guys, like you say, like us, subscribe us, watch this, Outside the Square Circle, Modern Boxing USA on Facebook. Let us know what you think. We really appreciate your time, and hey, tell us what you think, everybody. You know what I'm saying? Much love. We'll be back next week, same time, same place.